Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert, that's me. This video is composed of things that I tinkered with throughout the day. For step-by-step detailed instructions of those tasks, you can click on the links in the comment section below. This video should contain tips and tricks of things that I've learned throughout the year. Now, I only plan on leaving this video posted for about 30 days. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for watching. Lord, I got back to the Panther after 2 weeks. For some reason, the battery is dead. So, I need to figure out what's going on there. I mean, it was dead. Clock stopped dead. So, I need to figure out how that happened. And somebody just called me passing through. They said that they wore out the brake pads and they're on rotors. Want me to look at it for some reason. Not sure why, but I'll take a look. Headed that way. At this Mercedes AMG series, so probably has less. There's a bolt there. There's a bolt there. Looks like both of those bolts are intact. So I don't know why the rotor has shifted and the rotor is now rubbing the brake.
And I wasn't
bracket.
doing anything funky or anything.
It's rubbing on the
Robert.
caliper, yeah.
I was literally just going.
Tinkering with this Mercedes Benz. It's a 430 CLK, and while he was driving along, he felt a pop, and the caliper bracket started rubbing against the rotor. What had happened was the wheel bearings failed, and the wheel tried to fall off the car. But between this nut and this brake bracket, it held it on. So he's limped in here to Albuquerque, gave me a call. We're going to fix him up between me and the guy down here on the shop on the Saturday. Off, and then show you how to put it on, and then you go reverse steps to get it off and put it on. Bearing assembly off and away from the car. I'm tapping out the races that come with the bearing, because sometimes those get damaged. You need to replace them. They come with the new bearing. So this one, of course, was set there. I set it in the vise just to hold it, no tension on it. I tapped it out with a punch and a hammer. So now I'm tapping out the inner one so that I can get that out and have it cleaned up to put the new bearing in. So you look there, this piece that the bearing rides on is the race. You can see the line there. I need to get in there and tap that thing out. This one's being a little stubborn, so I'm tapping it from the other side, trying to knock it down and out of there. Tapping about 4 or 5 minutes. There's the other race. Now I'm gonna wipe this out, put it in a parts washer, get all the grit out of it before I set the new bearings in. I'm also going to show you how to pack grease in the bearings. I tapped the race out of the front side. It came out real easy. The inner one was a little bit tougher to get out, and I went on the angle, and as you can see, put a very slight nick on that inner thing. Really doesn't matter. Don't let that bother you, but do try to tap it straight out so you can avoid that, because the new bearing race is going to be pressed in there. The bearing's not going to touch that, so it's not the end of the world. So we use brake parts cleaner or whatever you can to clean this up. Now we're going to lube the bearings and put them in. Inner bearing seems okay. The outer bearing totally disintegrated and gone. This is the edge of that outer bearing that is stuck to the hub. That needs to come off. So I'm going to put a pipe wrench on there, try to twist that off, tap it off, do anything you can. You might have to cut it in half to get it off, but that has to come off so that you can get the new bearings on and in place. The outer bearing parts off, so we're trying to cut them down to basically the axle so that we can tap it with a punch and break it. Get it off that way.
We're so close.
You just have to be careful not to cut too far into your axle stud or mess up your threads, which is no real big deal because your bearing race is what that part is. Thing cut through, he's gonna hold the camera so you can see this piece finally turning while I tap it after we've sliced it. So it's coming off. So that piece is a piece that's got to come off. It's almost there. All right, should come off now. Let me grab a pair of pliers. All right, you can cut it off. Outer bearing thing off. Now we pull off the inner bearing stuff. Now you want to clean this up. And after you get the new bearings lubricated, slide them on. So we'll wipe this off with a rag. You can spray it down, whatever you want to do. Wheel bearing grease to do this. Now this is a wheel bearing grease tool here. You set your wheel bearing in there, and then this is the outer bearing, and then you press this thing down on it, and it squeezes the grease through the bearing, and it comes out the top. Now if you don't have one of these little contraptions, you could put some grease in your palm and work the bearing into your palm until grease comes out the other end. One way or the other, you got to get grease packed all the way through that bearing. So let me go ahead and get this one out of here and pack it. Bearing set in there. I take this, put it on top of there, and press down on it to get the grease to come through the bearing. Let me make sure I did that right. Bearings are lubricated with the grease. You want to take the races and put them back in the hub the way they're supposed to be. So this one is for the inner. The inner, of course, has your ABS ring on it. And the bearing, put it in this way, right?
Yeah, you're going to put it in the same way the bearing's going to go into it. So it's going like that.
With the tapered end, okay. The bearing's going to ride on that, so that needs to be out so the bearing can fit in there. You need to tap that in the hub and do the same for the other side. That bearing part in there, you got to make sure you drive it in evenly or you'll have to knock it out, start all over. This deal here is used to help do that because it has basically that shape. Drive it down in there till it gets to the stop. Flip it over, do the other side. So the side with the writing and the made in China on it goes that way. Tap that down in there so that you're set for the other side, and then set the bearings in there, set the seal in there. My battery's getting low, so these clips are going to get shorter. I locked myself out of my radio, so now I'm back to code, and I entered the code. I am back in business. Now that the inner bearing is there, you need this seal to put on the inside of that to stop dirt, whatnot, from getting in there. So put that on there like that, press that, tap that down in there in place, and then you're ready to go put this on the car. The other side, the cap, is what stops dirt from getting on that side, but this seal keeps dirt from getting in on the inside. Bearing race press thing over drove that seal in there. So now we're going to go out to the car, grease that shaft real good, and put this stuff in place and put that bolt on. Grease on there liberally. You don't want anything rusted on like we did with that inner bearing. Take this with the seal on it, slide it over, and get that pushed up on there. has to go all the way back there. Shouldn't have to, but I had to tap this bearing on with this socket. I used a 24, I think it is, 22. And this thing is turning nice and smooth. Feels a little tight, which is really not what you want, because you want to tighten it with the nut and have it come loose that way. So I'm going to have the mechanic look at it, give me his call. Then I'm going to put this nut on it, and this nut has a screw that screws in it that way. What you should do is tighten this nut in until it pushes the bearing until it's firm, and then loosen the nut just a little bit so that it turns freely. Because if you tighten those too tight, run the car down the road, it's going to burn the bearing up in no time. I did this a little backwards. You should make sure that the spindle, the end of it, is smooth enough so that the bearing slides on and off before you put the assembly on. Then you put the assembly on, push the bearing in, and turn it in with the nut until it gets firm. Once it gets firm, you want to torque it a little bit and then back it off a little bit, then put your nut in. When I get those specifications, I will put them in the comments. I'm going to turn this nut in. I couldn't turn it with the wrench, so I've actually been turning it with the screwdriver, like that. I don't know if the threads got messed up or something while it was running without a bearing. The nut got damaged. The screw that goes in there, it's a T30 works. So you want to tighten that in there. You want this loose enough so it turns relatively easy. Because if it's tight, it'll get hot, start wearing out the bearing. You don't want that. Nut is basically where it was when I took the other one off. I got it in there tight with the T30. Next thing I'm going to do is set the rotor up there. Then I'm going to set the caliper back in place, put the 2 bolts back into the caliper. Bolted on the 2 18 millimeters, and the rotor's in place. I believe it'll set right when I torque it, because right now the pads are not letting it sit properly. I'm going to put this cap on here. You have to tap that cap off to get it that bolt. You could do it with the caliper on or off, probably easier with the caliper off. Dust cap on. Now I'm going to put the tire on, torque those down. Hopefully this grinding will stop and we'll be good to go. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.